2 weeks before the budget. I turned up to an open home, a building I was trying to sell, and we had no one turn up. And I thought, oh my God, where is everyone?
Yep. It's been a very quick drop, hasn't it?
It's been a quick drop.
Have you, you've been through a lot of cycles,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yep.
Is this the quickest turnaround you've seen?
I've got 2 properties. 2 of those properties I sold 3 times. They fell over twice. Buyers changing their mind, wanting to negotiate discounts, couldn't get finance or just got plain scared. So
That's what's going on with your portfolio. Give us a bit of an update.
as I've matured in the last couple of years, I think back and think, well, hang on, it's not the end of the world. I feel sorry for the young buyers agents actually, because they've just had such a good run for 5 years and everything they recommend goes up and everything, but they're going to find out that it's
Yeah, 'cause
life's not always like that.
That's an industry that's going to be a really interesting one because
Hi, I'm Andrew Wright, Principal of Professional Southport, and this is the Andrew Wright Property Podcast. I've built a multi-million-dollar property portfolio, delivering a 7-figure annual rental income, and led my real estate team through thousands of sale and lease transactions. In each episode, I share real deals and strategies that will help you find, fund, and operate profitable property deals. The aim of this show is to provide education and build a community of like-minded investors who can collaborate, share insights, and help each other in each other's journeys. You can make excuses or you can make money, but you can't do both. So come and join us.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Andrew Wright Property Podcast. So, well, before we get started on today's topic, I want to just say hi. Firstly, Andrew, welcome.
Adam, how you going, mate?
I'm very well, very well.
You're no longer Mr. Sniffles since the last episode.
No, that's right. So going okay now. But, mate, what's been happening? Tell us about, what's going on in the business, what's going on with your portfolio. Give us a bit of an update.
Okay, well, in the business as such, the residential property market on the Gold Coast continues to decline. So properties under $1 million still holding up reasonably well, but have probably dropped 5% in value, and stuff over $1 million, I'd say a lot of it's probably dropped 10%. So open home numbers still probably half what we're used to seeing, but
it's been a very quick drop, hasn't it?
It's been a quick drop.
Have you, you've been through a lot of cycles,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yep.
Is this the quickest turnaround you've seen? The most dramatic, if you want to use that term?
Well, not necessarily. When COVID happened, when the country is shut down in one day, that had an immediate impact for a short term, and the GFC also was very immediate, but certainly in the last 6 or 7 years, it's actually the first downturn, and it probably just as, like you point out, is probably just as dramatic as those other major events. So,
but without the world event being the thing.
exactly
it's a combination
right.
of things.
It's a combination of things, and most people won't even see the data. I mean, you come out and see these statistics coming out saying house prices have dropped 1% this month and all the rest of it. Let me tell you, when the end of we're in end of July today, 30th or whatever, but by the time end of September comes out, you will see 5 and 10% drops in 3 months, not a year, and the data will come out. So I'm sure
it takes a while to catch up, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's all lagged, but as a real estate agent, I felt it 2 weeks before the budget. I turned up to an open home, a building I was trying to sell, and we had no one turn up, and I thought, oh my God, where is everyone?
Yep.
And it was just. And it always happens before a budget, people get nervous, but you combine that with the anti-money laundering legislation that come in from the 1st of July, the 3 interest rate rises, and then all of the budget challenges with the loss of negative gearing and capital gains tax discount. It's all hit at once. And, I think resi property is in for a tough ride for probably 1 to 2 more years.
Right. Okay.
I feel sorry for the young buyers agents actually, because they've just had such a good run for 5 years and everything they recommend goes up and everything, but they're going to find out that it's life's not always like that.
That's an industry that's going to be a really interesting one because buyers agents have exploded in the last 5 years. I mean, I remember 5 years ago, didn't know they almost existed.
Yeah, true.
And so there's probably a lot of guys guys and girls who've come in, taken this on, and not realise what a downturn market will do to their businesses. So
Yeah,
that's going to be a
exactly.
really interesting area of the industry to watch.
Yeah, another casualty from a downward market is that you, as a real estate agent and a seller, you actually get a lot more contracts fall over. So I've got 2 properties. At the moment, I actually have a lot of transactions. I've got 12 properties under contract or unconditional at the moment.
That is bucking the trend at the moment, I can tell you that.
It is, but what it doesn't tell you is that like 2 of those properties I sold 3 times. They fell over twice. Buyers changing their mind, wanting to negotiate discounts, couldn't get finance or just got plain scared. So I think over the next 6 to 12 months, agents and sellers will see more contracts falling over, more price negotiations when a building and pest comes out not perfectly. Even yesterday, I had to get that last 12th one unconditional. We had to take a $9,000 hit on the selling price because the buyer said, this property's not perfect, 30-year-old house, but this property's not perfect. Give us a $9,000 discount or we're walking.
Yep.
I sold to the owner, well, look, if we put that back on the market, we might get $30,000 less now from a few weeks ago. And they agreed with me, and that's what you need to do sometimes.
Yep. So look, the skill set of an agent really comes to the fore now too, doesn't
Oh,
it?
absolutely.
With those kind of negotiations.
Yeah, absolutely.
And knowing, so I think we'll see a lot of the younger agents drop out of the market too, because they're just not equipped with this experience or skill to deal with the market we're now in.
Yeah, it depends on whether they work closely with their principal or part of a team that may have a more experienced agent with them. But what you're saying is definitely applies for younger agents. They may need to call on someone who's been through a lot of these scenarios before. I've been super busy also in commercial leasing. I've just negotiated 6 commercial leases, 4 of them in my own portfolio, but 2 with clients. And just for the sake of the discussion, 5 of those leases are being prepared by lawyers because the tenants require them to be what we call registered leases. So if you register a lease that goes off to some government department and you see that come up on a title search, when you do a title search for a property, you see number 1, interest registered to the Crown, number 2, interest to NAB Bank or Westpac Bank, and number 3, registered lease on plan XYZ, where the tenant can stop you moving into the property because they've registered the lease. Those leases need to be in a registratable format, which a lawyer can only prepare with a survey plan. And the other one I prepared by myself because it was only a 3-year lease, didn't need to be registered, and a real estate agent is allowed to prepare a commercial tenancy agreement only up to 3 years in length without getting the lawyers involved.
Right.
So just to let you know what's going on
there. Can I ask you a question, Andrew?
Sure.
As a real estate agent based here on the Gold Coast, and you've obviously got your property managers looking after some of your commercial investments and otherwise across the country. If there is anyone listening, are you able to help with being, a commercial agent, helping them get leases sorted anywhere across the country, or do they need to be local?
My real estate license only allows me to do transactions in Queensland.
But you're able to do them all anywhere across Queensland?
Anywhere in Queensland, yes.
Sure.
And I have properties all over Queensland that I commercially lease myself, but I don't think anyone, it would be in their best interest to appoint me to lease their property in North Queensland or whatever if I'm not there. But legally, I can do that, yes.
But if you're in the Gold Coast or Brisbane area,
Gold Coast or Brisbane.
The point I'm trying to make, there's not too many people around, especially agents who know more about commercial leasing than you do because you've done it for yourself so many times.
Yeah, that's not actually accurate. There are big multinational corporations, Colliers, CB Richard Ellis, Savills, Knight Frank, that have a lot more experience than me, Adam. Like in the small scale mum and dad commercial properties, yes, I think I'm reasonably competent at what I do.
Sure.
But in the big scale CBD, multi...
So a good clarification.
Yeah, that's exactly right. As far as my own portfolio goes, I've written down a few notes here because there's just so much happening, and
tell
I
us.
think it's educational as well.
Cool. What's going on?
I just want to come back to I've got a letter here from the Ipswich City Council, which I think people can learn from, so I'm going to be boring and actually read it out.
Yeah,
It's dated 18th of January 2024. Dear Sir, Madam, reminder notice for the lapsing of a development approval. Business use, produce, craft market, shopping centre, and 128 additional multiple residential units. Property location 13, 15, 17 Ellenborough Street and 3 to 5 West Street. I refer to your development approval given by Council's decision notice on 13th of January 2012 for business use to be carried out on the land situated at the above referenced property. According to Council records, this development approval is due to lapse shortly. If the approved development is not completed and the relevant conditions complied with by the lapsing date, you may wish to make an extension application to the assessment manager to extend the currency period of the development approval in accordance with Section 86 of the Planning Act. If you need to call us on the below number, please give us a call. Now, I got that letter 6 days later in my PO box, Adam. It was dated 18th of January. I've written hand notes here. Received 24th of January, just 6 days later. I rang that council straight away because I didn't even know that property still had that approval for about 168 units, 128 resi plus 40 next door. And the guy there said, I said, when does this lapse? And the guy looked up his paperwork and he said 2 days ago. So that the Ipswich City Council has sent me this letter on the 18th of January. I received it 6 days later on the 24th.
But it
lapsed on the 22nd.
2 days after they sent
2
it.
days after I got it in the mail. 4 days after they dated the letter. I don't know when they sent it. But by the time I got the letter, it had already lapsed. Now, for me, I said, oh, look, surely I can go and pay a $1,000 fee to extend this. And they said, no, you're going to have to start from scratch. Now, the reason I'm going through all this, and it might sound tedious, is I don't know what the potential costs for me to relodge this application are, but we could be talking $100,000 or $200,000 for me to start from scratch to build a 15-storey high-rise with 128 units and next door a 5-storey shopping centre with offices. And just that one mistake that I made there potentially could cost me $200,000 in extra fees. Now, I think that's a valuable lesson for people that if you buy a site with a development approval, write in your diary, and this is the only reminder notice I got,
so
when it lapses.
You can't rely on them to remind you is the lesson here.
No, and I may be a bit negative here, but I got a feeling they knew when they sent that letter it was going to expire by the time I got that. Why? Why would perhaps the council wants their extra $100,000 in application fees?
Look, I didn't even think of that. I just thought tardy.
Well, why would they send me a letter that lapses before I even open the thing? And I know that might be not the.
Is that the nudge to say, look, you're done, but we want to remind you now because we want another $100,000?
Well, this is the same council that tried to slug me an extra $100,000 in infrastructure charges for a boarding house that I wanted to build, and I didn't
talked about before.
So look, I don't want to be too negative, but the flip side of that is I didn't know that this property was still approved, that development approval was still valid, because when I bought it, the agent told me it had expired.
So you didn't know you even had it?
When I bought this site, the agent marketed it and told me that there was a previous development approval that had expired, and there was a mortgagee in possession sale.
Yep.
And the private lender who foreclosed on that property didn't know that the development approval was still valid. The agent didn't know. And so when they sold it, they told me that it had already lapsed. So I didn't know that I had to go and renew this thing. So I'm just bringing this up because this is over 2.5 years ago now.
So what has happened since then? Have you gone and tried to get it
Well,
back? Or
the reason I brought this up now and not 6 months ago when I started doing this podcast is last week I thought maybe I should reinvigor this. So I actually went through the records, found the town planning organisation who prepared the development approval documents to lodge, and he was a bit grumpy because the guy who went bankrupt, I remember I bought that site mortgagee in possession, didn't pay all of his fees to the town planner because he went broke. And he goes, and the town planner, Andrew, the guy who got that approval, we helped him and I never got paid. And I said, well, look, I'd be interested in re-employing you to see if we can go down this track again, because I think that'd be a massive uplift in the value. And he went back and he sent me an email later after that phone call saying, Andrew, my initial fee to review this and give you an initial town planning assessment will be about $40,000.
Is that to cover his previous?
This is my feeling. I've got a feeling he's got a grudge and he wants to charge me for maybe some of the fees that he missed out on before. So it cost me $40,000 just to get an initial assessment.
Wow.
So anyway, I will have to consider going to another town planner to get this reinvigorated. But initially I was really upset when I read all this. I thought, oh geez, this could cost me $200,000 I've just lost because I didn't do this. But as I've matured in the last couple of years, I think back and think, well, hang on, it's not the end of the world. If that agent had have known that property had a approval for a 5-story commercial shopping centre and 128 residential units next door, it would have sold for 4 or 5 million. I bought the site for 1.95.
Sure.
So,
and what would you expect the value to rise if you do? Let's say it does cost you another $200 to get that approval back in place. What sort of uplift in value do you think that would give?
That property now is worth $4 million. I think without it. So I don't know, and that's why I'm excited to spend some money with a town planner now, going through this process of increasing the value further, and I'll update you once but I'm not paying a town planner $40,000 just to give me an initial town planning assessment. No. So I'll get to that and I'll update you. We mentioned in an earlier podcast that I put 2 extra sheds up in Harvey Bay under contract, which I couldn't afford to buy and couldn't finance. So I bought them subject to the seller entering into a lease for the front shed at a minimum of $48,000 a year plus outgoings. I have now helped him lease that front shed, and we have an agreement there with the lawyers now being drafted up. And I've got my tenant from next door, the milk distributor, renting that one up. And so that deal now is unconditional. Net rent $85,000 a year. At a 7% cap rate, that'll be worth $1.2 million. My purchase price $1,025,000. So there's probably nearly $200,000 uplift there.
So that's gone to plan.
Yeah, because of the commercial. Yep. And next door at 8 to 10 Driftwood, I've got the go ahead now with the big tenant there in the cold storage shed at the front to do another 2-year lease with 2 more 2-year options. So that's all looking good. All 6 sheds now fully leased and going forward. That site at Ipswich we were just talking about, my main anchor tenant there, the Rafter and Rose Cafe, I've just yesterday got them to agree to a 3-year extension to exercise an option. So my lawyer has just drafted that up. I'm now I've just yesterday, as a result of that, got my broker to go ahead and refinance those 4 properties in Ipswich so I can draw some equity and go shopping to continue my purchasing process. So I don't have any cash, Adam. I've got to continually refinance. It'll cost me probably $7,000 in valuation fees to value those 4 properties, but it's a great investment if I can draw out $700,000 or $800,000.
That's a fee towards getting your finance.
It's a cost of doing business.
Essentially, isn't it? Because you don't have cash. You've got to refinance these revalue these just to see what equity you've got and use that to borrow again.
Yeah, I can't save cash. Like I just, by the time you pay tax, it's just so hard to save a cash deposit. So I'm like everyone else. There's no easy way to save cash. So revaluing for me is the only way to draw enough equity out to keep going. So,
and as we've always said, you never sell, you never pay the cap gains on it. So, and everything else. So
Exactly, and just as a mindset thing, just to let the viewers know what needs to be done. Like I've just set up two brand new companies to go out and buy my next properties. Now I haven't even signed any contracts yet, but I've gone and set them up anyway because it sort of triggers me. Oh, well, I've just spent, I think it was $770 or something online to set up these companies. I do it myself. I don't recommend the listeners do that, but I've spent that money now, and now I've got to go and buy something because it's forcing me. I'm a tired ass.
Well, you like to put yourself under pressure.
Yeah, look, this is part of the discipline. I've set up two companies. Now I've got to go out and buy a couple of properties, and I'm about to talk to you through a couple of deals that I think will be the best two deals I've ever done in my life, and I'm so excited to talk about them.
They're coming up in our very next episode, aren't they?
Yeah, so but you don't win them all. We did an episode on car parks a little while ago, and I tried to just buy one last week up in Bundaberg, just a little car park rented out to a government department for 3 years, and it ended up being a multiple offer situation, and I missed out. That happens, you don't win every deal. I had the opportunity to increase my offer because it was a multiple offer situation. I did increase it, but I still wasn't high enough to win, so I missed out. But, that's the process. You've got to make the offers to come up with the good wins, and I missed out on that one.
Well, your challenge was to our listeners and our viewers to make an offer every month, wasn't it? Or was it every week?
No, well, once a month I think is fine. So once a week if you haven't bought one yet, but when you get an established portfolio, I think probably for me, once a month is what I try and do. But if you're starting out and you haven't bought one yet, it should be at least once a week.
And if this is your first episode that you're listening to, which I hope it is, and go back and listen to, because all of this dovetails into the advice Andrew's given before, and that is, that some people listen and say, "What, we make an offer? What do I know that I've got finance? Do I know?" You don't have all your ducks in a row. You often make the thing, and then work out the deal with the vendor and being very creative with how a deal can actually be done.
Yeah, so
go back and listen to
100%, Adam. So the last 9 properties I've bought in the last 18 months, I couldn't get a bank loan once. I bought 9 properties in the last 18 months without a bank loan. And the next 2 that I'm about to talk to you about in a second, I still have no idea how I'm going to finance them. But they're going to be the best 2 deals I've ever done.
So don't miss our next episode.
Yeah, well, the point I want to raise today is the reason I've come up with those is, 1, the knowledge and skill set that I've built around creative financing, but 2, because I've put in the work. So these don't just come up online. These opportunities have come because I jumped on a plane last weekend. I flew away from my home place. Then I hired a car for 2 whole days, and I drove around looking at 6 properties that I'd identified that I thought were worth having a look at. And one of these deals that I've made an offer on wasn't even on that list. It happened because I told the agent that I was looking at another property in the next town. He said, "Oh, I've got one over there. It wasn't even advertised online. How about you have a look at that as well?" And one of these 2 deals, which are possibly the 2 best deals I've ever done, came because I told the agent I was looking at another agent's property in another town. He didn't want to miss out on a commission. "Oh, I know a side there that might be suitable."
Check this one out.
It's not marketed.
I can't wait. And
it's just, so there's a couple of cold storage facilities I looked at which are empty, and I'm trying to marry up tenants to pre-lease them before I go ahead with them. And
all right, don't give too much more
I won't give away. I'm not saying where they are, and I haven't found a tenant. But these 2 deals, let me just tell you, it's so exciting.
I can see you're excited.
I've got to run through briefly without giving away the location. But one of them is 30 acres of industrial land. Again, it's not marketed online. It's not a development site being marketed. I'm looking to buy a 30-acre industrial land site. My plan is to subdivide them into perhaps 20 separate industrial lots. I've already had a 45-minute Zoom call with the head of town planning in that council. I've nutted out all the issues and I'm pretty confident that I can proceed with that one. And the great thing is I can't afford to buy 30 acres of industrial land, but I'm helping that seller because it's a pre-85 asset, and the Labor government has come out and said, even for those people, these guys are older guys, retired. If they owned property pre-85, it was tax-free. Now they're changing the law. This guy wants a sale this financial year because he's angry that the government is now changing that legislation, and he's going to have a liability for any future capital growth with his capital gains tax. Now, I've already agreed with him. I've told him I can't afford to buy it. I've already negotiated a 5% deposit at him. Now, if I went to a bank, they'd be wanting 50% on vacant land. I've negotiated a 5% deposit, a long settlement. We've just got to fine-tune the purchase price. So that potentially will allow me to get a development approval for a 20-lot subdivision before I even settle on the property with just a 5% deposit and have a massive uplift before we settle. The next deal, which I'm even more excited about, is a site I also can't afford to buy, but I've entered into a lease purchase contract to rent it for 3 years, add millions of dollars of value on it before I settle.
Wow.
And we're going to talk about that in the next podcast.
Can't wait. All right. So this has turned into a really interesting episode on updating.
I'm excited. I can't even sleep at night. I'm literally waking up every 2 or 3 hours, getting out my phone and texting myself messages because I'm thinking of ideas on how to add value to these sites. And I don't want to forget. I can't sleep unless I write it down. So I either write it down in my diary or I get up every 2 or 3 hours. I'm texting myself, Andrew, do this, so I don't forget. Wow. That's how excited I am.
Love it. While we're doing an update on, your portfolio and what's been going on, I want to ask you, now this wasn't one of yours, but we did talk about it in a bit of detail on a podcast quite a while ago. There was that land just outside of, I believe it was Townsville, where you were appointed the agent and you looked at 3 potential uses for it. Now, I'd like an update on that because you got it, you listed it, and you went looking for 3. Now, remind me, they were potentially a solar
panel farm. A a residential subdivision into 1 acre lots, and also a retirement village operation, potentially a third one.
Right. So.
Mission unsuccessful. The market feedback was that the site was not worth $20 million. The sellers wanted $20 million, didn't have any approvals. The market feedback was it wasn't worth $20 million without the approval. So I have now made the recommendation to both of those owners, go and spend the money getting approvals and then we'll try again.
Right.
So once they're doing that now.
And they are doing that?
They are doing it. So they're going to get the site development approved and then we'll try again.
Okay. Now, which... when you got that market feedback, who was it from out of those 3 potential?
All of them.
All of them.
They all said it's just rural land at the moment, and at $20 million, the rate per square metre with no approvals was just too expensive.
Is the site suitable for their uses with the approval, all 3?
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Love it. Because that was an interesting one. I wanted to know where it had ended up and who'd shown interest and what had happened. So it's a watch on that.
It is, and you might think that's disappointing that I get all excited about these big deals, but not every deal comes off, and that's the reality of real estate. Yep. So yes, I wish I had sold that, and we do a podcast about how much money we made for the seller, but sometimes things just don't work out, and you've got to improve the site further, and we could be another 18 months before we go back and try again there. So not everything goes to plan.
No. But when you say that's a fail, it's a fail for now. It's, it didn't come off right now, but there's always steps in the process, isn't there? And that's what you've got to understand with property development. Nothing necessarily happens overnight. In fact, most of the time it takes a long, long time for things to happen.
Absolutely.
So, look, we've been through a lot of your deals, throughout the course of this series. Is there anything else you can update us on? Is there any changes or updates with anything else within your portfolio? Yeah,
sure. The Longreach deal we're working on, we had the council pre-lodgement Zoom call. That's a 7-lot subdivision into...
This is with the kids?
Yes, this is the one with the kids, and the council's sort of all in favour of that. The next step of that one was to go to the state government to talk about the highway at the front, which it's 100 km/h speed zone, and we had to talk about maybe widening that road. So I've had plans done up by the traffic engineer to widen the sides of those roads and allow for turning points in and out of that. We did have a Zoom call booked for yesterday, but it was cancelled. The state government came back, the main roads, and said, look, we can just respond to this in writing. There's no further benefit in having a Zoom call, so I'm waiting for that update from the state government.
Can I ask you, were you planning on having the two kids on the call and with them being a learning experience for them the whole way along?
Well, my daughter's busy running a hair braiding business, but my son, yes, he sits in my office behind me and he listens in. I get him in on every Zoom call so he can learn the process of property development. So he's at the back listening so he can learn, and that's a far better education than me telling him what I'm doing. I say, sit at the back and have a listen to what the council and the town planners and the engineers are saying on this Zoom call, and he's learning a lot.
Well, look, I've met Leon, and he's a very switched on young man, and obviously also following in your footsteps as a real estate agent. So I'm going to challenge you now, and Leon, if you're listening, and of course you should be, because you should listen to all of your dad's podcasts. I want you in this guest chair, and I want to do an episode on what I've already learnt from my dad. Yeah. So I'm putting that challenge out to you.
Let's just make it the good things I've learned from my dad.
Maybe what not to do from what I've learnt from
And let's keep it to real estate, please.
Very good. So, Leon, you're in here in the next little while. I think that would be a really good one.
Yeah, a couple of other things. I told you we had a date where the Lockyer Valley Council had to respond to my development application on those 15 units in Helidon. We got a letter from them the day before saying, we need an extension of 3 weeks because our engineers have been away or something. So
I love that they can.
I sent you that letter. Did you read it?
Yes, I saw that. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I love how they can do that and just get an extra 3 weeks on their deadline just by sending a letter. I'm sure when you've got a deadline for something they need, you can't send a letter the day before and say, just give me another 3 weeks.
This is the public service we're talking about. So that was quite frustrating. And the other site in Helidon, the truck parking depot that I'm building, again, I'm learning. The engineers that were supposed to finalise everything to satisfy the information request for the council came back and said, this one particular thing, you'll need to engage another engineer to do the report for that. So we spent all this time waiting for them to do all this stuff to satisfy the information request from the council. And in the last moment with their final submission, you'll need another engineering firm to cover on this thing. And the town planner goes back and said, hang on, when you initially sent your quote, you said you would cover this. We don't have the skill set around that. So I've just had to employ another engineer to do another report. And guess what? Starting from scratch. If we hadn't known that at the start, we would have employed them months ago. So this is how things can just get delayed and delayed. But I'm learning. Everything happens for a reason, and there's lots of stuff going on.
Absolutely. I think I've asked you this, and I ask you this from time to time, and you're continually revaluing properties to know exactly what your portfolio is looking like. But as we stand today, your portfolio value?
Well, nothing's changed from 2 weeks ago, around the 27 million.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Fantastic. And your debt level?
Nothing's changed from 2 weeks ago, Adam.
Was that only 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let me ask you this then. Do you know on average how much you spend per year on that group of expenses around getting approvals, council fees, this or that? I'd like to know, with a portfolio your size and the amount of deals you're going into, how much is being spent that just...
I honestly don't know, and I should know. You should track every dollar, but I mean, it's a lot more in the last 12 months because I've got 3 different development sites I'm getting approvals on. I don't usually have 3 property developments on the side of my normal investment portfolio that I'm running. So the numbers would be a lot larger the last 12 months. I haven't even done my financials, but every couple of weeks I seem to be writing a check for a few $1,000s to town planners and engineers and things. So I don't know, Adam. That information will come out once I do my financials, I guess.
Sure. Well, look, this is not what we'd planned to talk about today. So, but I think we've just about nailed it. That's that's your update episode. So that's an update on all things we have talked about during the first 30-odd episodes of this podcast in relation to your actual deals. And look, Andrew, it's been a journey already with this podcast and hearing. I loved hearing about what's actually happened, the wins, the things that haven't happened yet, and what's still to come. And I guess, now I just can't wait to hear about your next deal, because I can see the excitement in your eyes. So stay tuned for next week, and you're going to hear all about Andrew's next deal, which you're saying could potentially be your best deal
I'm
ever.
working on 2 deals now that are better than any deal I've ever done before, and I literally, I know this sounds maybe it's not meant to come across as arrogant or cocky, but I'm just so damn excited about a couple of these deals I'm looking to do, and I can't wait to share them if they come off. They haven't come off yet. I want to disclose that.
Yep.
It hasn't happened yet. I'm in the process of negotiating these 2 deals.
Excellent.
And I can't afford to buy either of them, by the way, but I'm going to... This is the thing is, like, when I even went down to these sites, I went down and said, these are too big for me. And I can't finance them, but I just sat there saying, there's got to be a way. I've got to find out how to creatively finance these deals, and I'm reasonably confident I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And that's one of the big things that have come through with this whole series, that there are ways and means to do it. So don't miss that one. And again, just a reminder, please share, subscribe. If you know any other property investors out there that this podcast can help, please do share the podcast with them. A reminder that Andrew is always open to being contacted from anyone who'd like some advice, someone to talk to, or, wants to even talk about potentially, JV deals that could be looked at. So it's about a community. It's about helping each other. And sharing this passion that Andrew has for property investment. So, Andrew, thanks once again.
Thanks, Adam.
Can't wait for the next episode.
Me too.
Don't miss it.
Thanks for listening to the Andrew Wright Property Podcast. This is all about building a community of like-minded investors who can share real-life stories, experiences, and collaborate with a view to helping each other. Join us. Get in touch through the link in the show notes. I look forward to you joining me on the next episode.